Welcome. This is a game I played back in the under-16 chess Olympiad between me and Grandmaster Shimanov. I don't know if you guys have heard of him. He's one of the top members of the Webster team. That's actually situated here in St. Louis. Very, very strong Russian Grandmaster. Back in the days, I was higher rated than him. I cannot dream of that anymore. No, this was the Olympics, Team Olympics under 16, played in Novi Sad in 2006, I think. So in the 21st century. So I opened up with e4. This used to be my main weapon up until maybe 5 years ago when I decided I cannot keep up with sharp theory, and I went to d4, try to grab a more strategic approach to chess, and things turned out quite well. But I was a very feared e4 player, I could say. I was losing maybe 1 game per year, and then winning a lot of games against strong opposition. So play d4, c5, e6. Okay, how do we call this this variation of the Sicilian? Sicilian Khan. Actually, I think it's written right here. So yes, it's a Sicilian Khan variation. Queen c7. And here I played bishop e2. Obviously, the main lines are bishop d3 or bishop e3. And then extremely complicated variations after knight f6, bishop b4. The theory is quite massive here, and I didn't really want to enter those lines, especially as I mentioned, I was a pretty lazy guy and I wasn't really learning theory as much as I should have, especially when I was young. So I played bishop e2, a more tame approach. b5, castle, bishop b7. All right, so what is he threatening? And what are my options? His threat is to play b4, absolutely. And I move my knight, he takes my e4 pawn. That's about it, pretty basic threat. Nothing complicated there. How can I defend? Bishop f3 is one of them, absolutely. Anything else? An even more direct approach I could say is a3, just to stop him altogether from playing b4. But in general, I just didn't like playing moves like a3. I felt like they're kind of a loss of tempo. So I wasn't a big fan of those type of moves back in the days. Anything else? I decided to be a little bit creative. So, Queen d3. Queen d3 is definitely an idea, but I don't think I want my queen there, because in general, after queen d3, he would also play knight f6, reinforcing the threat. And the problem is that this queen might become the target of this knight. Potentially d6, knight d7, knight c5. The queen is not that badly placed there, because I can always swing it maybe on g3 or on h3 to try to kind of bring it into the attack. But yeah, it's not the type of move I wanted to play. So something else. I played rook e1. He played b4. Okay. What was my idea behind this rook e1 move? I suddenly decided to kind of shift gears and stop my tame approach, sort of. This is just kind of a lead that you guys could follow. So how did I go? What did I play? Ideas? What are my options, guys? Knight a4, knight b1, or knight d5, or knight d5. Knight b1 is definitely not something that I wanted to play. If I allow b4, I definitely don't want to bring back my knight to b1. Knight a4 is another placement of the knight that I kind of try to avoid at all times, because I don't really see a way to continue after that. So I played knight d5. That was my whole point of playing rook e1 in the first place. I told you, some sort of creative flow hit me.
Have you played this one before?
No. I mean, I never played actually bishop e2 in my life. I was sometimes prepared, but then I decided to play bishop e2 because I was facing a very strong opponent. I didn't want to fall under his theoretical preparation. So on the spot, I decided to play bishop e2. Take. And now I'm having some serious threats, right? I'm threatening to play maybe bishop takes a6, maybe bishop f3, simply just kind of give that check, put my knight on f5, kind of corral my pieces around his king, and hope for the best, basically. So he played bishop c5. What's the point of this move? Yeah, knight e7 is definitely something that he has in mind. There's another reason why he played this bishop c5 move. What about just simply hiding his king on this side? Because if he goes on d8, then he's always going to stay in the center, and potentially after he plays d6, I will always have checks on c6 and stuff like that. In general, the much safer place for the king is on f8, yeah? So that's part of his plan with bishop c5. I played bishop f3. I don't think bishop takes a6, despite the fact that it wins the pawn. It slows me down a lot, because now he plays king f8, and I don't really want to exchange pieces. That's not my goal. If I have to withdraw my bishop, then I'm losing a lot of tempos, and one tempo is enough to completely lose all my dynamics in the position, and then I will simply be a piece down. So I played bishop f3, king f8. What now? How to continue the attack? Queen e2. That's a very direct approach, I agree. The problem with this is he's simply going to go knight f6. Queen e2 is definitely something I have in mind in the future, but I didn't want to hurry with that. So I played something else. D6 simply just doesn't work, because he's going to take with the bishop. Now I'm going to take maybe on b7, but he takes, and I didn't really get much in return for that pawn. Yeah. And now he also has this square for his knight. Before he didn't. With my pawn on d5, I was controlling the center quite nicely. Right now, after knight c6, once again, he's going to be a piece up, and my position will crumble very, very fast. So d6 is not the move I played. Knight f5, absolutely. Knight f5. Yes, that's exactly what I played. Attacking the g7 pawn kind of getting closer and closer to that king. And also I have a clear threat. What is that? D6 is my threat. Yeah. This is my threat, and he has to play what? To defend against it. He has only one move. D6. To play D6 himself. Yeah. But after he plays this move D6, at least this bishop is kind of cut out from his defense. Yeah. And also this D6 pawn might become a target for me. And from now on, this is kind of what I focused on, the D6 pawn. But it's not that easy to do that because he has a very, very strong defender in that bishop on C5. And I'm also fighting time. If I play slow moves, I'm going to be in big trouble. He's going to play knight D7, knight F6, maybe rook E8, start exchanging some pieces, and I can basically resign. Or he can play something like knight D7, knight D5, clog the E file. Once again, piece up, not a lot of compensation. So here I kind of had to stop and think for a long time. And I would say this is probably one of the moves and the ideas I'm kind of most proud of those years. Those formative years. If you're at home, stop it. Try to give some thought to it. I thought maybe for 30, 40 minutes. Again. I knew it was coming. And I forgot to turn it off. I do have tea, absolutely. It is tea time. So what to do? Again, try to remember what I said. My targets are.
Bishop F4.
Bishop F4 is definitely the first move that comes into your mind as you start thinking about the position. The problem with this move is that he's probably going to go knight D7. He is in fact threatening to play knight E5. And that exchange, and even after that playing D6, is not going to help me that much. Especially if I need to give up my dark square bishop. So bishop F4, I was probably very close to playing it, but I just stopped and forced myself to think a little bit deeper than that. It's a very natural move. It's the move that in a blitz game you would make instantly, but it's not the correct approach. How to get rid of this guy? That's the main question. If this wouldn't be here, he would be completely lost, because he doesn't have any other defender on the D6 square. Bishop F4, bishop takes D6. Basically, he can resign. So try to craft a plan to accomplish that. And try to be creative in that process, because there is no direct way of doing that. Do you want to exchange the bishops with bishop E3? That would get rid of the bishop on C5, but it would also get rid of your attacker, of your only attacker on dark squares, and that is your bishop. So that's not the right way. Bishop E3 is not the right way. C3 is a very interesting move. Absolutely. What's your point?
Well, when he takes on C3, he plays B4. And the idea is getting rid of that bishop. Because if he plays bishop takes B4, queen A4 is the middle strategy.
Yep. No, C3 is definitely one of the top choices. And this idea with giving up one of these two pawns, actually, as you guys will see, A3 was my move. And then playing B4, that will distract this bishop. And despite the fact that it will only move him one square away, he's going to give me a very, very important diagonal. And that will be this one. And I will be able to bring my queen in the center, centralize the queen, which will create very, very unpleasant attacks for him. The problem with c3 is that he's probably going to go a5. And if I take, I didn't really accomplish that much. On the other hand, with a3, if he plays a5, I get rid of one of his defenders, and that will be the rook on a8. I also put his bishop on a very, very passive position on a8. Given all that, his best move would still have been a5. This was his best move, and he should have went for it. But white has quite good compensation here, yeah, because of the fact that I can just do something like this, for example, queen e2. And now you don't have this annoying move knight d7 defending with the rook on e8, right? Because I simply take on a8, you take with the bishop, queen e8, and that's checkmate. So I get a lot of play here. He took on a3, which is kind of like the natural way. To be honest, I don't think he saw b4 coming, which was my move. I think he expected me to take on a3. Probably just thought that my idea was to put my bishop on b2 and find the diagonal for my bishop, but he would have repelled that quite easily with something like knight d7, the knight e5. Quite annoying. Yeah, once again, this bishop is an extremely good defender. So here I played b4. Now he's committed. He has to take everything. If he goes to bishop a7 after bishop a4, he can resign. Nothing defending the d6 pawn anymore. So he took on b4. How to continue, and what was his plan? Because he surely tried to calculate, and he was able to calculate pretty far. What did he think his resource was, his defensive resource?
So you really can't play queen d4.
I don't know. I haven't.
The rook, and you take g7 pawn, he escapes.
Does he?
It looks like he might.
So let's calculate. Queen d4, bishop takes e1, queen takes g7, king e8. Then maybe I can just simply take on h8. And then his knight on g8 is falling. Can he defend that knight on g8? Not really. Okay. And also his king is very, very exposed after that. Yeah. So after queen d4, bishop takes e1 wasn't his planned resource. It was something else. Bishop c3, absolutely. And that's exactly what happened. So queen d4, bishop to c3. Now it's a pretty funny position because all my heavy pieces are under attack. Yet I'm doing pretty well. That's especially because of the fact that this d6 pawn, once again, if that falls, if I manage to take something on d6, supported by my bishop, then his position completely collapses. So what should I do now? What are my options, and which ones look most appealing to you guys?
Well, queen g4, g6.
Queen g4 is an interesting one. No, after queen g4, I'm actually going to take on a1.
All right.
Yeah, I can still take that rook and keep my bishop on the diagonal. That's an option, but it's probably not good enough. Also, maybe I'm not even forced to take on a1, because maybe if you take, I take on a3, and then once again you have some problems on d6, But in this position, maybe I can prepare my defense on the dark squares and play knight d7. Now, if you take on a3, I simply play knight c5, clog the diagonal, and then the d6 pawn becomes quite safe. Yeah. So is not decisive enough. Queen g4 is not aggressive enough. Okay, queen f4, let's try it out. Okay, I'm going to try to do the same thing, I think, and just play knight d7. Do I want to do that? Let's try it. Yeah, and if I'm not getting anything extraordinary in return, then probably it's not a good idea. So queen f4, it's an interesting try, absolutely. It's probably not the best. I played queen e3, which, okay, creates a battery on the e file, but most importantly keeps some connection to the c3 bishop. So now if he tries to play knight d7, bishop takes a3, knight c5, the c3 bishop is under attack, right? So I can simply take the bishop and that's game over. That's part of the reason I played queen e3. But him, being a sneaky guy, he had some resources up his sleeves. So he played the move knight e7. What's the point of this move? It looks pretty stupid because it just puts the knight in check. But if I take it, then he's simply going to take my rook. And this knight is actually very, very bad placed now. If I take back, he's going to take my knight on e7, and he has a tremendous advantage. It's a rook up, yeah? I'm not going to be able to recover from that. So this kind of surprised me. I don't think I saw knight e7, anticipated this move. I was lucky though to have some aces up my sleeve as well. So how did I continue? If I take with the queen, once again, the exchange of the queens is definitely not going to do it for me. That's not something that I can recover from once again. So queen e7 is out of the question. What is pretty much the other move that remains? Bishop takes a3, absolutely. Bishop takes a3, and then he played bishop to e5. This was his plan all along, yeah? What now? What are my options? How can I increase the pressure anymore on that d6 pawn?
Quickly.
Right, and I have to do something quickly because he's threatening to take my knight on f5. That was kind of his strategy as well. He wanted to develop his pieces with tempo, putting pressure on me, so that I cannot kind of place my pieces on the right squares and mount the pressure. He wanted to get rid of that annoying those annoying attacking possibilities as soon as possible. And my knight on f5 is one of my main pieces, my main collaborator into the attack. So, what to do? And as a backstory, I will tell it to you after you find the move, because that would kind of give away the idea. Candidate moves, guys. This is the easiest way not to forget about anything. So knight takes e7 is definitely one of them. I'm going to take with the queen because I cannot take with the knight because of queen takes e5. And after that, I'm not really sure I have a good way to continue. A good way to justify my huge material deficit. Yeah, I mean I can take on e5, but then he's just going to take with the pawn. I'm going to take on e7. That's just going to be an exchange. Piece down. Yeah, simply piece down. After knight takes e7, queen takes e7, queen takes e5. Not much. Actually, I can still play d6, but even in this position, he's a pawn up. Yeah, and that's not enough. That's not enough compensation for me.
So his king is really exposed.
His king is indeed really exposed, but I'm not sure I can take advantage of it that easily. Like for example, if I give a check, maybe he can just simply go to e5, or e6. If I give another check, he's going to go to f6, then suddenly he kind of got his pieces out. Yeah. So this was definitely an interesting idea. Yeah, this was definitely something that I had to calculate, but it didn't satisfy me. I was sure I need to find something better, something to kind of completely finish him. Also, I'm not sure. After knight e7, maybe he can just... No, taking on a1 is suicidal because of what move?
Knight g6.
Knight g6, exactly. Knight g6 and checkmate on e8 is coming. He's going to take queen e8. That's game over. So, no, he's going to take with the queen and the variation we've just analyzed. But you're right. That was surely one of the calculations I made in the position. Queen takes e5. Yeah. Let's calculate that. Can I just give a queen like that? Queen takes e5, d takes e5. And how is that position? I'm a queen down, right? But I have this annoying attack on the a3 f8 diagonal, and his king is very, very weak. I'm at least going to take one piece back. What is his main option after d6? Let's say queen d7. Let's say he plays queen d7. He just tries to save his queen, yeah? How to continue now? Pawn takes e7. If he goes king e8, come on. No.
Knight d1.
Wait,
Knight takes g7, checkmate.
Oh,
Yay! Victory. So after I take on e7, he's going to go king g8. Now I can just simply take on b7, take another piece, attack the rook. Everything is with tempo. He cannot take on b7 because I promote. He goes rook a7, and now there's probably more than one way of finishing the game here, but I think the easiest one is just to attack the queen. Bring my last piece into the attack. Completely lost. Completely lost. So yeah, queen e5 is actually the move that I made. And backstory: I promised we were having a dinner after Millionaire Chess that just ended like a few weeks ago, and Shimanov was at the table, and somehow the discussion, because we haven't talked throughout the years, we haven't really kept in touch. We weren't friends or anything like that. So I asked him if he remembers our game, and he was, after a few drinks, And he was like, you know, my memory is not very good, but that is one game, one move that I will never forget in my life. Yeah, in his Russian accent, Russian thick accent. So I was pleased with that. But he took d6, and how does he try to survive here? What is the only way of him kind of continuing the fight, continuing the battle? Knight takes f5, I'm just going to take on c7, then I'm going to take on b7, and then game is over, yeah? No, bishop takes f3 is the only chance. And after d takes c7, yeah, where is he going to move the knight? Only to c6, because if he moves it to d7, then I can just simply take the knight back, and now his knight on e7, is pinned. He's going to lose it in one move. But with the knight on c6, at least he keeps contact with that. And despite the fact that it looks so dominant, this is a game that kind of only this is a position in which if I lose one tempo, I'm actually going to lose my advantage. So I took on f3. What should he play now? Once again, try to be as resilient as possible. What are the problems that he's facing? For once, is the pin on the a3 f8 diagonal, and another one is his king, right? So try to make a move to improve both of them.
Well, if he plays f6, king f7.
Well, to be honest, f6 is kind of the only way he can try for something, because after king e8, I can just simply take on e7, then take on e5, and then the knight is lost once again. So another problem that he has to fight against is this pressure on the e file. So yeah, f6 kind of solves most of those problems. I have to be very precise here in order to convert my advantage. So let's try to do that. I cannot lose the grip. I have to keep him tied up until the end. So what to do? Okay, rook to d1. Rook to d1 is probably winning as well. Rook a to d1. But I played rook e to d1 because once again, kind of you need to always check the quality of your pieces. What is the rook on e1 going to do in the future? Not that much. While this rook could go where? Go on the b file and actually try to penetrate on the b file. So why not keep this rook here and then just use the other rook to go on d7? So I play rook d1, king f7, knight takes c7, rook d7. Again, keep him tied up as much as possible. Rook e8. Continue. With what we discussed, the plan that we discussed. Rook b1. Rook b1, now I'm threatening to go rook b8, divert one of his defenders. He's going to have to take on b8, I take, he takes back, and then the e7 knight doesn't have a defense anymore. So right now he's going to lose a piece. He played rook c8, and I played rook b8. I continue. Again, I cannot allow him any moves because his next move would be king e6, getting out of that pin and equalizing the position. But everything was with tempo. For example, here, if he plays king e6, I do what? Rook b8, I take your rook on d7. That might be bad. Might be bad.
Well, rook takes e7.
Rook takes e7, bishop takes e7, and then rook b8, and that's it. Game over. Yeah? So he doesn't have time for that. Rook c8, rook b8, rook takes c7, rook takes c7, rook 7, and we played a few more moves. I converted quite easily. I'm a piece up. There's not much compensation for it. He has one pawn, but that's about it. Let's just see till the end. Pacifize his rook. Yeah, now his rook is passive on the a file. He has to defend. The only thing I need to do right now is centralize my king and bring my last piece into play. So I play king f1, h5, rook c7, rook c6, c4. He was trying to create some sort of counterplay there, but there's not much. And after rook b5, he resigned. Yeah, because I take on e4, and that was about it. So, yeah, that was chess in the 21st century.
Beautiful.